Hi guys, I have Bumpy gone on my face. I'll tell you this, God blesses us with one vessel, so we've got to take care of ourselves. I have like these blemishes. I have one blemish here and one right here, but I figured I'd put it all over my face because I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I get blackheads. Ugh. All right, we're gonna get back into this book that I published, Antidote to Anti-Dope. Yes, I am engaged. We'll talk about that later. God is so good. All right, so we're on chapter 26, and it's called Emergency Court Hearing. It's funny, I know, but it'll be worth it once I rinse it off, and I'm. All right, it's called Emergency Court Hearing. And it goes to say, Miss Elma Ghazi, you look taller since the last time you were in my courtroom, the judge said. Yes, sir, it's been a while, I replied. My head drooped down and I tried to fight the tears. I was ashamed. I saw my son sitting next to his on and off again family, and not once did he look my way. Mimi's, parentheses, she's not related to us at all. I'll explain more as we go, parentheses. Attorney wants to talk about Weirdo, my partner. That's what I call him in this book. Weirdo wasn't even in the courtroom to defend himself. Mimi's attorney talked about Weirdo, how my son had walked in and saw a bag on my bed with Weirdo, filled with a substance, then went on to ask if there was in fact alcohol in my home, and I truthfully said there was a bottle of wine in the house for the past 6 months. Weirdo brought it home from a home we clean. I used to clean houses. Alright guys, we need to clear this up. Okay, so the substance, it was dope. Nicholas never knew exactly what it was, but he did see the substance, And that's where I take my accountability, and that's where, okay, when you lose your kids, there is a reason. God works in wonderful ways. It hurts in the beginning, but once you realize that the things that you are going through are lessons, they're not happening to you, they're happening for you, okay? It gets easier. All right, so Weirdo brought it home from a home we cleaned. It had been there ever since. We weren't planning on drinking it, so it sat there collecting dust. Literally, this bottle of wine, it was brand new. Robert saw it at a home that we cleaned, and he grabbed it and he brought it home. And it literally sat on top of our dryer for a while, and it was going to sit there because we weren't going to drink it, But the other family's attorney used that against us because, in the day I'd gotten in trouble with alcohol. I had a DUI, and they used that against me in this court proceeding, but it was fucked up how it happened because they blamed everything on my partner, and my partner wasn't even there to defend himself, Let's continue. It says, honestly, we completely forgot about it. Weirdo respected the fact that I will always be a recovering alcoholic, and he chose not to drink around me or my son. There was one 4th of July. My partner's brother did come, and this was in the very beginning of our relationship before me and Robert really got to get to know each other. And they bought a 6-pack and they shared it on the 4th of July, And this was before I realized that both my partner and I had addictive personalities, and yeah, this was before this was fresh in the beginning of the relationship. And then it says, we had Weirdo's brother over 1 year, and Weirdo drank 2 beers with his brother as we shot fireworks, which was the most alcohol Weirdo has drank out of the 3 years we had been together. I'll correct this. He had 2 tall boys with it, plus that within a 3-year time frame. I've had troubles with alcohol abuse, and a result from it led me to losing custody of my son on 2 different occasions in the past. This happened on one different occasion. One other occasion. No, it was 2. It was when I had a DUI. I'm trying to remember. Was it? It was, I had a DUI. It was one other occasion. Yeah, in the past. No, it was 2. Okay. The attorney went on to say, is it true that Weirdo tore your son's door down and cut the Wi-Fi off so that your son couldn't call his Mimi? Truth of this is, and we're going to speak the truth. Truth be told, I was geeked up in my room. At that time, I was sorry as hell and pawned all my responsibilities off on Weirdo. As a mother, I should have got off my ass, put the glass pipe down, and got my son out of bed myself. Instead, I sent Weirdo. By this time, my son was getting out of control. He was retaliating against us because I wasn't doing my duties as his mother. I'm not going to school, my son hollered. I'm not going to school. You can't fucking make me. You're a fat bitch. Not again, kid, I was shouting from my room. Weirdo was in the bedroom with me, but after hearing my son, he wasn't there for long. Weirdo flung our bedroom door open and stormed down the hallway to my son's room. He hollered, "You don't yell at your mom like that. Get your ass out of bed and get ready for school." He said, I've never seen Weirdo that upset. I really hadn't. I think he just got tired and all of the responsibility, because I put so much responsibility on Weirdo, and we saw the declining of Nicholas's behavior. This is what happens when you're in a home without structure. Okay, this is what happens when you are when you're under the influence and your priorities are so fucked up. You lose the connections that you have with your kids, and their behaviors start to from good to bad decline, and they lose respect for you. Okay. It says, I think he got tired and all of the responsibilities I put on him with no appreciation. Y'all, when I was in active addiction, I did not appreciate Weirdo. I didn't appreciate my kids. I didn't appreciate life. Okay. I didn't. So all these emotions caught up with Weirdo, and he had enough. Okay. Weirdo got a drill and unhinged my son's door. He disconnected the Wi-Fi so my kid couldn't play his Xbox, and he might get up and get ready for school. And the door was removed because you don't disrespect your adults and slam the door in their faces. That is the truth. That is what happened. The only reason the Wi-Fi was disconnected was because my son was steadily playing on his Xbox when he had to or needed to get ready for school. And the Wi-Fi is what made the Xbox or the game system work. So, of course, any parent would cut the Wi-Fi off, okay? And any parent, if their kid's bedroom door was slammed in their face, they would take a drill and they would unhinge the door and they would remove it. Okay? Yes. Let me rub that in. But yes, so this is what happened. It wasn't so that my son could not contact Mimi. The problem with this is that the whole entire time that my son was with me, honestly, I was not allowed to be the parent that I need. I was not allowed to discipline Nicholas the way that I needed to, because Mimi was always there, Everyone disciplines their kids. There was no abuse, none whatsoever. The door was unhinged, removed, and the Wi-Fi was cut off. Your children should listen to you, but I get it now. I should have been a better parent, I get it now, All right. But there was so much stuff just fabricated and twisted in the court systems. And the judge knew. He allowed it to be. They took advantage of me being in such a vulnerable state, and me in that courtroom standing up by myself with no attorney. Okay? The other family's attorney was loud as all get out, and they knew what they were doing. Okay, we had an emergency court hearing after the other family picked up my son from my home without letting me know. Why? And I wasn't allowed to speak to him, see him for a long time a week or so until we went to court. And still, even then, I couldn't even talk to my son. This was all premeditated. I thank God for just, I will thank God for the time apart from my son. No, he's not with me. He's still not with me, and it's okay. I get why everything has happened the way that it's happened. Nothing happens in your life that God does not already orchestrate. It's all divinely happening. It's happening for you, not to you. You get what I'm saying? It hurt, y'all. This whole, the beginning of this journey, I was so confused because I was coming off drugs. And when people gaslight you and they don't let you know how your child is, or they alienate you from your kid, and they just take everything that you love away from you without any answers, that will mentally fuck you up, okay? But I was reluctant, and I was blessed to be able to get out of being stuck, because I was stuck for a long time, guys, and it hurt me. But one thing that I need you to know is giving up is not an option. You don't give up. That's what they want you to do, okay? They never in a million years would have thought that I would come out of this. Never. It says the attorney went on to say, is it true that Weirdo tore your son's door down and cut the Wi-Fi off so that your son couldn't call his Mimi? Okay, we read that part already. Okay. Weirdo got a drill and unhinged the door. He disconnected the Wi-Fi so my kid couldn't play his Xbox and he might get up and get ready for school. And the door was removed because you don't disrespect your adults and slam the door in their faces. Alright. My son always threatened to tell Mimi whenever he didn't get his way around the house. It really affected my role as his mother when she constantly belittled me and disrespected me in front of my son. She literally blatantly looked down on me and made me out to be not good enough, not cool enough. She aided big time in my son disrespecting me, but I take accountability for my addictions. Yeah. Whew, this is deep, but I'm sharing this with you because it's true, y'all. We all need to be heard. We're all important, and I need y'all to come out here and tell your stories, your testimonies too, because this is happening in real life to good people. People are losing their kids, losing their minds, And your story is important. And it says, how would he ever respect me when the people who cared for my son want my son to be with me for reasons more selfish? With God, justice will surface, and we will all have to pay our dues for dancing with the devil. I will get my son back. It's just a matter of time and patience. Y'all, I need to explain where I was stuck. I was stuck because, before I woke up, before I got on this spiritual journey, I felt like my son belonged to me, okay? He came from me. I carried him for 9 months. I will love him unconditionally. But I had to learn that we all have different paths. And we all have to learn lessons for ourselves, okay? So if in fact this was his choice, we'll get there. He's going to have to learn on his own. And I had to realize that, it's all in divine timing, okay? If God wants my son or my kids to be with me, he will make it possible. But when you don't get your way, in situations, even when it has to do with your loved ones. It is because there are things that you must work on in your life and align yourself with before God sees it fit for you to have what you want. Okay? These are lessons. All right. So that's how I got out of being stuck in my head. I realized that this was an opportunity for me to grow, to heal, to figure out myself, my life, okay? To correct myself, to grow and to become a better version of me, you know? God was giving me a break. He was giving me the opportunity to get my shit together, okay? And you got to remember that divine timing. Okay, our clocks, right? Humans made up the 12 or the 24-hour a day clock, right? God's not on human timing. He's on his own. Okay? So it may take a few years. You may not get what you want in this lifetime because God, there are reasons for everything, and God, let's continue reading. Okay. Okay, and then I inserted, God makes your life unmanageable and takes everything and anyone you love away. But see, you create this life that is so unmanageable, and God just tries to give you that shove to wake you up, you know? So it's not that he's making your life unmanageable. God will not allow your life to get any better until you straighten your act up. But it says, God makes your life unmanageable and takes everything and anyone you love away until you tighten up. I take complete accountability for everything that I've done to get me in situations like these. You have to change. You have to want better for yourself. Your kids are counting on you. Don't let anyone tell your children you don't... Wait. Anyone tell you your children do not love you. That would be a lie. Okay, this is something too. When people don't give you the clarity, especially when they take your kids, you know, and they don't help to reunify or don't care to wish for your growth and your healing so that you can reunite with your children, they just don't give a fuck, okay? You have to understand. It took me a while to realize that their intentions towards reuniting my son and I, they didn't care. Because I believed in these people for so many years, just like I believed in my family for so many years. Guys, not everyone has your best interest. They shot me the fuck down in court. And it's crazy because in the courtroom, the judge took my son to the back. And because I asked the judge, I said, will you take my son to the back and ask him who he wants to live with? My son went to the back and never returned to the courtroom. So I never heard from his mouth whether or not he wanted to live with me, which is okay. The judge came out and said he wanted to live with the other family. And, you know, it's last week, my partner and I were sitting together and we were like, hell, if we were my son a couple of years ago, we would have asked to live with them too, you know? And that put a big smile on my face because I wasn't thinking like that. God is so good, you know? I wasn't thinking like that at all. I'm grateful for the other family. I'm just disappointed in how everything turned out. But I get it, you know? I want my kids to live, to have a normal life, you know? That's my wish for them. And their health, that they're healthy, you know? I'm reading this book that I wrote on my journey to you guys because once I complete this book, I'm done with it. I'm shutting it and I'm not going back in it. I can see the difference. And a little over a year ago, when I started writing it, I couldn't help cry. I cried the whole entire time because there were feelings that I hid or kept behind, or blocked out in emotions for so many years that I had to release. And now I can read it comfortably with a better understanding, you know? And I'm doing this because I want to prove to you guys that you don't have to be stuck. You've got to get yourself out of this stuckness. Is that even a word? Otherwise, you have to understand that people are moving on, living their lives. It is your turn to live your life. You deserve it too. Life goes on. Sometimes without your kids for many, many years. And it's okay. Just continue to grow and to become strong so that the day when it does come and they call you or they show up at your door, you're ready. Whatever questions they have to ask you, you know how to answer them, All right, this is chapter 27. This facial cleanser just faded out. That's pretty cool. You can still see a little bit of it in my eyebrow. But yeah, it's all good. Okay. Chapter 27, Bait. Excuse me. In the first 2 months, I called the other family every day, begging to speak with my son. I just needed to hear his voice, to know he was okay. She would answer each day and tell me my son didn't want to speak to me, and she would blow me off. She never asked me to go and take a drug test. No, she didn't. You would think, if they take your child from you, what was the reasoning? See, I fucked up. I'll tell you why in a second. She never asked me. I fucked up a lot. But she never asked me to go and take a drug test. She literally just cut me off all contact. See, in court, the judge, after they went and they took my son to the back room and asked him if he wanted to live with me or the other family, the judge came out and said my son wanted to live with the other family. But in the court papers, it's really stupid how they did it. It doesn't even seem legal. The reasoning for removing my son from my house, and it was wrote on the paper, it was their desire to keep my son. And it was my son's desire to live with them. There was nothing stated about abuse or neglect or anything. That was the only thing wrote on that court paper. And then it said that my partner was not to be allowed anywhere near my son. There was no proof of neglect, no proof of abuse. There was none. My partner would never put his hands on my son. My partner used to spoil the hell out of my son. And with that spoiling, it taught my son to be entitled. And once my partner stopped spoiling him, my son started to dislike him. This is what happens when you're, 13? You're a tween, When you don't get your way, you retaliate. And with our generations right now, some of our kids, especially in screwed up situations as ours was, they know how to use your weaknesses against you, and they know how to manipulate the shit out of you. You still gotta love them, but you gotta think, when you were younger, what did you do when you didn't get your way? You threw fits, Okay, it says, in the first 2 months, I called the other family every day, begging to speak with my son. I just needed to hear his voice, to know he was okay. Honestly, that's all I wanted to know. She would answer each day and tell me my son didn't want to speak to me, and she would blow me off. She never asked me to go and take a drug test. She literally just cut me off of all contact. And then finally, after 2 months, Mimi tricked me into believing she wanted to help restore our relationship. And she would bring my son over to our house for us to sit down and talk. One thing I still don't understand is the man of the house in the on and off again family. He was a recovering alcoholic. And no one could tell me that he and his wife didn't get into arguments around their children. My partner and I, we argued. We did. Okay. No one took their... It says... Okay, what I didn't understand is... even... And this is later on. This is after this book. My son came to visit for 1 week after being alienated for over a year. Okay? Not being able to talk to him. I still don't talk to him on the phone. No text messaging, nothing. But he came for a week, and he told me that the other family's pops drinks a lot. Okay, he's a recovering alcoholic. He's not recovering anymore. He may be right now. I pray that he is. But he's an ex-cop. What I didn't understand was, why could this family? Was it because they had more money? Was it because they were... they knew everyone in the town. They were all uppity, you know. There was bias like a motherfucker, you know. The judge knew this family. The judge's kids did church or school or whatever with their kids, you know. It wasn't a fair court hearing, period. I didn't get why the recovering alcoholic still had his family, all his kids, and he still relapsed, and wasn't given the chance to even reunite with my son. I wasn't good enough. Why were they any better than me? I get it now. I get it. You know, everybody in your life, everything happens for a reason. God puts everyone in your life, and they don't even know it. They fulfilled their purpose. I fulfilled my purpose. Well, I'm still on my mission or on my journey, you know, but like everybody, even the people that betrayed you, hurt you, took from you, robbed you, stole from you for years and years and years, time and time again, God put them in your life for that purpose. He will continue to allow people to do things, whatever they want to do. And this is they are teaching you lessons. You have to learn these lessons. But they end up hanging themselves in the end. Especially when you get into alignment and you become the wonderful human being, the strong person that you are. And no matter what they say, they can't hold anything against you. Because what they'll try to do is use your past when we're not in the past anymore against your present. The villains don't win, guys. The good people win. But it's a slow race. You just gotta be patient. God, you gotta be patient, you know? Alright. Alright. She would answer each day and tell me my son didn't want to speak. She never asked me to go and take a drug test. She literally just cut me off of all contact. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. When I left the courtroom, after the emergency court hearing, okay, the judge, nobody recorded this. The judge was like, and I want you to go take a drug test. It wasn't on file. Not at all. So where I screwed up is I called my son's guardian ad litem, and I was like, look, this wasn't on file. I don't have the money to go take this drug test. I was trying to avoid it, okay? And Yeah, they took that initiative, and the very next day, someone came and hand delivered me a paper telling me that it was mandated for me to go take a drug test. So, I'm not saying if I would have just was quiet, I'm not trying to get away with anything, and I'm glad that it's happened the way that it did. But these people are dirty. They're really dirty, you know? And this is what I had to learn, y'all. People will take advantage of your vulnerability and your honesty. And this is what I've been blessed with now. I am blessed with the gift of discernment. My boundaries are, oh Lord, I have boundaries that I will never let down. Because my whole entire life I have been walked all over. Not anymore, you know? They will take advantage of you. This is why it is important to wake up and get sober and get clean and get confident in who you are. Y'all stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Okay? I know you're sick and tired of getting taken advantage of. You deserve more. Okay? Mimi tricked me into believing she wanted to help restore our relationship, and she would bring my son over to our house for us to sit down and talk. One thing I still don't understand is the man of the house in the on and off again family. He was a recovering alcoholic, and no one could tell me that he and his wife didn't get into arguments around their children. No one took their kids away when things got bad. It's probably because he was a cop. I know this, and any other recovering alcoholic knows that it's a hell of a roller coaster to ride. Mimi never turned her kids against her husband. So why were they any different from Weirdo and me and T-Rex? Like I said, I call my son T-Rex in this book. My son and Mimi pulled up at my driveway. My son walked in the house first. She was behind him, forcing her way in as well. She was being kind, and that was short-lived. When she let herself in my home, she said to my son, "Aren't you going to ask your mother for your things?" My son shrugged his shoulders. I told them his things will remain with me until he returned home. Mimi got angry and told me my son hated my guts. Yeah. There's a typo in this. It's not attitude. Hated my guts. Yep. Then she spat in my face. I will never forget that. And this was in front of my son. Then she went to say to my son and said to him, "Aren't you going to ask your mom for your dog and your cat?" I was like, whoa. Okay, the off and on again family already got my son. I thought about how we'd get the two things my son ignored. How could they take the two things my son ignored while living with me? He ignored the cat and the dog. At first, I didn't care for animals, but watching my son ignore them, I took over the role of caring for them. They followed me around everywhere. My son didn't respond to her. He didn't respond to her when she asked him to ask me for my animals. I looked at her and told her she had already taken my son, and it would be unfair to strip me of my animals. They were part of our family. I was trying to hold it together, but this woman had run me through the dirt year after year. You will learn as you continue reading how Mimi showed her true colors time and time again. Mimi pulled the court documents out. A new court order, which I never received a copy. It just seemed like she was pulling all these court orders out, and I'd never even gone to court for these court orders. What the hell? Like, was she printing them out at her house or something? My God. It clearly stated that I was to give both my cat and dog to them. My son was silent the entire time. Was this woman typing and printing out her own court documents? If this arrangement was supposed to be in my son's best interests, what had the family court system become? How was this demonstrating a good role model for my son? It just taught my son how to disrespect me more and how to not give a damn about me, you know? And you know what? Even through my worst, I will always unconditionally love my kids, you know? It showed him how to continue disrespecting me more. My son finally spoke, and he said he went to see his father. I told my son it was because of me that was possible. My son's Mimi, for a very long time, every time when I had custody of my son, she would tell me, if you let Nicholas see his father, I'm going to take Nick from you. This is truth. So after this court hearing, I was quick to call Nick's father and tell him, look, this is what's going on. I need your help. I need you to get Nick. So Mimi turns around and she becomes friends with Nick's father. She triangular manipulated all of us year after year after year to get what she wanted, you know? And it sucks now because my son's father is dead. He died in a motorcycle accident. My son lost many, many years that he could have had a healthy relationship with his father. I'll be damned. Guys, you gotta stay prayed up, you know, because people wish the worst on you just for things that will benefit them. You know, a lot of people, they lose sight of God, of appreciation, and they are ran off of ego and pride and what they can get or take from you. It says, it was because of me that was possible, is what I told my son. Because Mimi would have left my son's father out of everything if she could, as she had done many times before. She told the court she didn't know where my son's father was. She did this on many accounts that she can get child support, or whenever the couple times that she got custody of my son, so that my son's father wouldn't get involved and actually get custody of him when I was slipping in alcoholism. When I got my DUI, she lied to the courts and told them that she didn't know where my son's father was. The on and off again family didn't care about the one visit I was court ordered to have a month. I continued calling them every day and begging to speak and visit with my son, and finally Mimi let me speak with my son. His responses were one-word responses. Each time I asked him a question, I asked him about our cat and dog. You could tell the phone was on speaker. Mimi said quickly, "Your dog is dead." I could hear my son crying, and all I could say was, "Son, it's not your fault. I'm not mad at you. There's nothing you could ever do to make me upset with you." He said, "Mom, I'm sorry." I told him again none of this was his fault. I told him that I loved him, and he muttered through his tears, "I love you too, Mom." All of this was a result of him not getting his way when I didn't buy him an iPhone 11, and him calling Mimi and out of anger telling her everything that was going on in our home. Mimi promised my son an iPhone 11. Okay, this is crazy because I try to explain to my son that his mama loves him unconditionally and will do whatever she can for him when she could. I couldn't afford an iPhone 11, you know? And he threw a fit about it. And that turned on the attitude and the I'm not going to school, and it began a retaliation, a big one, you know. And Mimi took it a lot further. When my son and I could have resolved this, but I needed this separation because I needed to get clean. It wasn't until I left Alabama that I actually owned up to being on meth over the phone when I was leaving Alabama with my partner. They had no proof, no facts that I was in fact on drugs. Yeah. Him calling Mimi out of anger, telling her everything that was going on in our home. I knew right then and there that he truly wanted to come home. I felt it in his voice. He could say anything because this is how I felt in the beginning. Because I felt the tears or the hurt in my son. That at that time, he felt so bad, you know? He felt so bad. He was so young. He was like 12. Yeah. And he said, I'm sorry, Mom. And all I wanted to do was hug him, and just be like, hey, it's okay. And I knew that there were underlying things. I knew that my son wanted to come home then, He was regretful of a lot of things. But in this book, I said, but he couldn't say anything because he knew that what Mimi said was accepted. I have a lot of spell errors in this. What Mimi said was, that's where he had to lay his head. Oh, what I meant to say is that Nicholas wanted to come home, but he couldn't come home because whatever Mimi said is what had to go, because that is where he had to sleep, where he had to lay his head, and those people were the ones that were providing his shelter and his food. Moreover, these people who provided for his needs. Why was it the only time I was allowed? Why was it the only time that I was allowed to speak to my son? One thing I don't get was I only had a few conversations, like not even 15 minutes long. If I was lucky, 15. They were bad conversations. It's like he called me when our animals died, or our animal died, or he wanted to change his last name. It's really fucked up how this, there's a lot of deceit and a lot of hidden agendas. Alright, why was it the only time I was allowed to speak to my son? It's sad. It's as if Mimi wanted any memory that my son and I had ever had together to be sad, bad, or mad. I've had it. I had taken accountability for all my fuck-ups. Now it's Mimi's turn. That'll never happen. All I wished was for my son to have been brought up. Yes, he wasn't with me, but with some compassion. With some understanding. You don't ever want to alienate a child from their parent. It's wrong. And you want to teach your kids that we all make mistakes, and that we're not bad people, and that we do have remorse for the things that we've done and the problems that we have created during unhealed times. There's just so much lack of integrity and morals and just decency coming from the other family, and how all this happened. And it sucks, but people will do that to good-hearted people. But remember, this is all part of God's plan. Okay? It says, my son would need lots of therapy. Why won't she do the right thing? Give my son and myself the opportunity to have a loving and nurturing, healthy relationship before it's too late. This woman is beyond cruel. I wrote that. Yes. Alright, my son's father suffered from alcoholism just like Mimi's husband did. Sober or not, we are all recovering. We all are. We have got to want each other to win. I have prayed many times for the other family's father because I want him to be sober, We have got to wish the best for one another so that we can all win and we can all love one another and we can all help each other. Y'all, it sucks how some people are in this world. It says we are all recovering addicts, alcoholics, and no one is better than anyone. I'm talking about the Pops and me. Mimi alienated my son's father and that entire side of the family as well as myself. She held my son over all of our heads. We all make mistakes. It takes some of us longer than others to realize them. Thank God for sobriety. This would be the last time I saw my son, April of 2021. We're going in 2024. I got to have my son here for a whole week. And then I was cut off again. No conversations, It's okay. So after a while, you get used to it. And you accept it. And you can start living your life. Life gets easier and better because, y'all, it's amazing when you put all of the control, all of your problems, give it to God, and just put complete trust in Him, you can live peacefully. You can live easily. You can live your life. You can smile on your face even after all the fucked up shit that's happened in your life, you know? You can overcome anything. You just got to have the faith that I have, and you can have it, y'all. I know you can. You deserve it. Look at this hair of mine. I was so wanting to get on here and just share more of my story that I didn't even care about my hair, and I had my cream on my face, and I was just ready to get on here, you know, because I love you guys and I want y'all to hear this. Because that moment you realize you don't have to be shameful. You don't have to beat yourself up anymore. That's what the enemy wants you to do. Don't let that enemy have any kind of control or power over you. It's the devil. Okay, and then my narrator insert goes, I'm going to read this because I have to use the bathroom, and then I'll record again a little bit later. It says, my son's father is now dead. God rest his soul. My son could have spent more time with his father and should be a part of his father's family. They are awesome people. That's what I thought, y'all. We'll get into that later. What part of this does Mimi see healthy for my child? There were numerous occasions my son's father and I were sober and doing really well. Mimi still chose to alienate my son from us. What was or is she hiding? You know, the only thing... She has her own family. She's living her own life. She doesn't care about what I do or the life that I wish to have with my son. That's what she's doing wrong. Not everybody has a heart of gold. It says, everything that was said in the courtroom that day was twisted beyond measure. The fucked up thing about it all was everything was blamed on Weirdo. And I allowed it. I didn't stand up for him. I felt so weak. And just so disappointed in myself. And it was a pretty shitty feeling, you know? I'm not sure if my son's Mimi instilled what was said in the courtroom in my son, and my son was just parroting her, or my son was just trying to protect me. I honestly doubt I'll ever know the truth. No, I won't. There isn't an excuse. Let me correct this for a second. We're going into almost an hour now, but, y'all, my son didn't really say anything in that courtroom. It was the attorney. And Mimi sat there with her legs crossed, arm dangled over the bench, just relaxed, you know. Their desire was to take my son. Very comfortably said. And the judge comfortably signed the papers. Crookedness. Shadiness. I can sleep good at night, though, because I know the truth, you know? It says, there isn't an excuse for the system to ruin a good man's name in a courtroom. Y'all, Weirdo isn't perfect, neither am I, but I can honestly say that him and I have become way more decent, beautiful than the other family ever will be internally and in God's eyes. Ever will they ever be. Once you learn that your heart conquers all, and integrity and your morals, nobody can take that from you. I'm an open book. You gotta have faith, y'all. You got to have faith. Look at that big old blemish. Alright. So let's see. There was never... Okay. And that man is... There was never an investigation and no charges were ever filed. So what part of any of this is legal? I rose and I requested for the judge to take my son to his quarters and ask him there so there wouldn't be pressure and he could make a decision and not feel bad about it. I requested that. The judge returned to the courtroom without my son. I specifically told the judge that wherever my son chose to live, as long as he was happy, I was happy. The judge said he chose his on and off again family. I was shocked and in disbelief because not even 2 weeks prior I made my child spend the entire spring break with his on and off again family because I believed it to be better for him than to be at home isolated in his room glued to the Xbox. Because that's what my son would have done, okay? I forced my son to go over there. He did not want to go. Guys, when your kids tell you they don't want to go somewhere, do not make them. Even if you think that it is best for them, listen to them, okay? I had to beg my son to go. All right. 2 days in, as my son was with Mimi, Mimi called me and said, he's already ready to come home. What should I do? Alright guys, I'm going to cut this video short because I've really got to pee. I love you. I'll be back on here in a moment.